Hey, what's going on, my amethyst? How you feeling this wonderful Saturday? I know it's not Saturday when I film this, but I want you to feel like I'm right there with you as you listen. How are you feeling? Have you checked in with yourself lately? Have you made sure that you are registered and making sure that all your choices and actions are made with a sound and logical mind? Your emotions are in check and in control, and you are reacting from a place of love so that there's no regret. Make sure that you recharge if you need to recharge, whether that's being in water, writing, drawing, dancing, singing, whatever you do to recharge and get yourself back to the state of homeostasis and peace. Make sure you do it. It is a necessity, okay? Especially in this day and time. Yes. So, what are we talking about today? I kind of wanted to touch on PTSD. It's been something that's been revisiting in my mind, so I said, okay, I'll go ahead and talk about it. Don't yell. So, I am here touching on it. I have experience with PTSD, actually. I have experience with PTSD from people that I personally know. As you know, and as you can see, I was in the military, so I definitely have people in PTSD that dealt with PTSD on a serious basis. And it's something that definitely needs to be, I say, dealt with on a delicate aspect. A lot of times people don't understand what's going on, and because of the different things that can happen while dealing with PTSD, you don't want to seem crazy. You don't want to seem out of control when you're known to be in control. You don't want to lose the things that you feel like you could lose with letting it be known that you're dealing with it. You don't want people to think that you're crazy and that you're losing your mind. And a lot of times it could be a lot of things that you're dealing with at one time while going through PTSD. Now, I do want to let you know that if you're not aware of PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress disorder, and basically it's when a person is receiving side effects of dealing with trauma that they've had in the past, whether it's the far past or the near past, right? And so they're dealing with their mind trying to actually replaying this trauma in their head. And in your mind, if you know, it doesn't differentiate what's reality and what's just in your head. And so because of that, you tend to react. Your body, right? Your motor senses and whatnot starts to react as if it's real. Whether you get set off with a trigger and you yell and you just unload onto something or somebody, or if you start hallucinating and the things you see in your head start to intertwine with reality. You start hearing voices, a lot of times people have guilt that triggers PTSD. And that guilt carries, and you start reacting to the things that affect you from that guilt, right? It can be dangerous. PTSD can be dangerous. It could be dangerous to the person experiencing it. It could be dangerous if the person has family. It could be dangerous to that family. It could be dangerous to people outside of the family. It just depends on how that person is processing their trauma, right? And there's levels to it. And so what I want to touch on today is the fact that it are the levels, because a lot of people when they do, because PTSD has just been really acknowledged, right? It's been really acknowledged some years now. It hasn't been like this major study. It was in denial for a lot of time, because at one point it was mainly dealing with soldiers. And as a soldier, you're not trying to be seen as weak. You're not trying to be seen as not control of your mind, because as a soldier, you're supposed to have discipline. You're 1%. You're supposed to have discipline. You're trained with the elite. So there's no way that your mind could be slipping like that. No, that's impossible. And so that culture created this space to where it was taboo. It was taboo. But people were experiencing things that people don't experience on an everyday basis, especially when you're at war. So if you're going downrange is basically overseas to Afghanistan, Iraq, Kuwait, the areas where people consider deployment and going to war. That's what downrange means. And so if you're going downrange, you're seeing these things that you don't necessarily see on a regular basis. Some people do, but not in the intensity and not in the severity that you see down there. And so you come back and you're not in the right place. You're not. You may not ever be in the right place. But there's a moment where when your mind begins to fight you because of how you're feeling of what happened. So now you're having a battle with yourself of things that you had to deal with in the past, that you experienced, you've seen, you witnessed, and just trying to live a normal life. A lot of people can't go back to living a normal life. A lot of people can't do that. And so I brought that up to say that was the most common PTSD that people thought there was when they even discovered that there's PTSD, because a lot of soldiers were coming back and either committing suicide or harming their family or just having setbacks, outbursts, anger. There was a lot going on, and they weren't understanding why until they realized it's the stuff that they experienced. And now they have to come back to regular life and act like none of it happened. And you can't do that because, we all deal with our own reality. And so by us dealing with our own reality, our mental plays a major part in that. Now, a lot of things that there's other PTSD, and I touched on it on one of them on my episode about oh no. Well, I touched a little bit on oh yeah. I'm here. So on my episode Village and Community, I touched on PTSD within that and how being a single mother or a single father and going through trauma can definitely hinder a child. So a village and a community is beneficial to make sure that you don't put all your, issues on that child. And so that is that's another PTSD that people do not, especially in the Black community, they do not recognize that is a PTSD that you do have to heal from. It's trauma from when you were a kid, or trauma from relationships. People don't realize that you have to digress from that. You have to defrag from those things. You have to be able, because a lot of times people put that down. They shove it down in the back of their mind and try to push forward so they can keep living. It didn't exist. It didn't happen. So I can keep moving. I don't want to think about it. I want to just go as like it never happened. And what we don't understand is that when we do that, it happened. The person that we were, that it happened to, will always remain with you and will always make you feel a certain way, because you have not gone through that process of accepting it, relieving it, forgiving it, and healing from it. So because you haven't went through that process, it's going to come and revisit every time, getting on your nerves like a fly. Every time you swat, it come back. Every time you swat, it come back. No, you got to take care of that. And that's PTSD. If you do not take care of it, it comes and revisits, and it's in your face. It's in your face. So dealing with past traumas that happened to you, like if you was raped, if you were molested, if you were abused, if you were degraded, bullied, if you were in a relationship and you dealt with domestic violence, you dealt with being belittled, with narcissistics, all that creates trauma, build up, because you can't voice yourself, you can't, free yourself the way you need to free yourself. That gets bottled up and that becomes trauma. And you end up letting it out. Whether it's against the new person that you end up with, whether it's with a stranger, a family member, your children, you're going to let it out. And it's not going to be in a good way if you do not find a way to process that and accept the fact that you do have PTSD. We all do. We all do. I had to realize that, and once I realized that, I went and did the necessary steps to heal myself. To make sure that I can be okay, because dealing with the triggers that I had was not cool. I came from an abusive childhood. So if I didn't fix my daddy issues, it would keep blowing up in my face. Abuse is not just the only daddy issues. I didn't grow up with my biological father. I knew he was there. He was there when I was born, up until about 4 years old, and then eventually my mom met someone else, and then we moved away, and my dad was just out of the picture. We just moved away, and there was no connection at all. So I didn't have my biological dad for a good amount, and then I got reunited with him because I had no communications with my dad, and I got reunited with him when I was 16. So I didn't have, when they say, a girl's first love is her daddy, I didn't have that. It started off, there was not a continuous connection for me to have that. So I struggled with daddy issues for a while. And I realized that, and I was able to address it. And there's still some triggers that I know probably haven't been revealed, though I know that a lot of it, I'm good. I'm good on a lot of it. There's a lot of those things that I was able to accept. I was able to forgive. I was able to let it go and make sure that I was good enough to keep pushing through, keep growing, keep changing, or evolving more like as a person, and not allowing those things to hold me back, because I realized that it was keeping me at a place that I didn't need to be when it came to relationships and when it came to just dealing with people in general. So in order for me to have a better situation, I feel like, I needed to heal myself on that. I needed to get myself right on that. So, I struggle with PTSD, and I was able to get myself, while recognizing it, I was able to get myself better. And I know a lot of personal people. I have a lot of personal relationships with people who struggle with PTSD. A lot of my military family. And so I never deployed. I wasn't able to. I had a medical condition that in order for me to go had to be cleared. And before I can even get a clearance, my first sergeant was like, no, we're going. We're switching you. So I didn't go. I tried. Didn't happen. It wasn't in the cards for me. We're good. I did get stationed in Korea, though. A lot of my military family, they did get deployed, and they saw a lot of stuff, and they came back. We lost some people, and it was hard. It was hard on a lot of people. I even had one military person that I had to help from suicide. He was going through it. He got in trouble, ended up getting sent back. Then he was dealing with, baby mama issues and all this other stuff. And he was in a real bad place. And I was not friends with this man from the jump. I was not friends with him. I seen him, knew his reputation, was not caring to, to me, I felt like he was an asshole. I was not caring to create any kind of connection, but something told me to go ahead. Something told me to do it. And he ended up in our company trying to start over because he got in trouble. And, me starting out and inserting myself out there, I was like, okay, hi, and it didn't happen right off the bat. Like, I was like, you know what? Why did I even try? But eventually it did, and I happened to be there where he just kind of gave up was trying to give up, and I inserted myself, and I'm glad I did because I didn't want to live with that on my conscience. I did not. So it's rough. PTSD is rough. And then the number one thing that takes us out is the fact that nobody admits that they're going through it. Nobody admits that they're having mind trouble because no one wants to look crazy. Not realizing that it can't be crazy if you and how many other people are going through it? It can't be that crazy if everyone is going through it, right? That has to be the norm. And people not going through this has to seem crazy, right? At least, people who don't have to go through this have to kind of seem crazy because it's the minority. The majority, a lot of people is dealing with PTSD. Yet no one talks about it. So it's something that people really need to talk about and break down. And you got to talk about the shit that's going on in your head. If you do not talk about it, it stays there and it eats at you. You have to let it go. You got to let it go. We don't only have PTSD from war and trauma childhoods and relationship. We as a culture have PTSD from what happened in slavery. And not only and the main reason why we have PTSD is because of our ancestors who've had it. And it's just been transported within our genes. So we've been born with this baggage of PTSD that we constantly and the residues of the racism that we see every day that activate that PTSD trigger that came from our ancestors. But we don't think about that. And because we don't think about that, we don't choose to heal that. And they make it very, very hard for us to even think about it and choose to do it. They make it very easy for people or for us to be like, I'm good. That's doing too much. I'm okay. Ain't nobody going in my head. You feel me? All these sayings that we hear, where do you think they came from? Where do you think put them in them? Put them in their head. The way we get better is if we saw this PTSD. It's not about being crazy and things being in your head. It's about solving issues that you're going through. If you solve these issues, you're helping your mind. People wonder why we go through dementia, why we have Alzheimer's. It's because of the stuff that we're holding in our heads and we're refusing to let go. Why we have cancer, because the stuff that we hold on to and refuse to let go of. So we allow that stuff to stay in our body and we contract dis-ease in our body. And we think it's from family genetics and stuff. And it's not. It's from how we're living. It's predominantly from how we're living. And if we allow the stuff to release, if we give ourselves a chance at healing and release these things, I bet we'll feel a lot better and we're able to receive and accept a lot more. PTSD is not healthy and it's not something that should be living in us at all. It's something that we have to constantly work through. And if we work through it, we don't have to deal with it. But the more that we constantly put it and shove it back and act like it's not there, act like it's hidden, the more that it tries to be up in our face like a fly. We have to resolve it. We have to accept. First is acknowledging that we have it. First you got to say, I got it. I'm dealing with that, right? First you have to accept it. After you accept it, Then you go through the stages of what you need to do in order to relieve it and to release it. Do you have to forgive something? Understand, when you forgive, you don't necessarily have to go to this person and be in their face to forgive them. I think that's where a lot of us get it wrong at, that we feel like we need to be in somebody's face in order to forgive them, and that's not the case. I can do an episode on forgiveness, because forgiveness is really about the person, about self, and it's definitely involved with self-love. So if you want me to do a video on forgiveness, the stages and different ways that you can do it to where you're at peace, let me know in the comments. Email me or comment and let me know, and I'll do an episode on forgiveness, because that's something that I actually had to work on and learn in order for me to be at peace with a lot of things in life. I always felt like, oh, that was wrong. I was done wrong. And it's like, life isn't fair, first off. Life isn't fair. But I digress. And with PTSD, back to the message. You got to forgive. You have to accept that you're going through it, and then you have to forgive. Once you forgive, once you realize how or what you have to forgive, that's going to let go. You have to give yourself permission to let things go, permission to accept this. Once you give yourself permission to accept it, you let it go, you relieve it, you release it. You don't no longer need it. Your mind is not going to hold on to it, because you said, I don't need you. So understand that when you forgive, you don't got to be in that person's face. You just got to know that you forgave that person. You got to be okay with forgiving, because you can be in their face all day and say, I forgive you. And then in the back of your mind, say, I don't forgive you for shit. You have to be okay with forgiving that person. Once you completely forgive that person, they don't matter. They don't exist. The forgiveness is within you. It don't matter. And once you forgive, and you're allowed to let it go, because it's not going to hold you down anymore. That baggage isn't going to let you down anymore. There's no hindering. There's no weight. Right? So once that weight is gone, you're able to heal. Because now it's an open space. Just like when you cleanse and you burn a sage, or you burn a Palo Santo stick, right? And you go and you cleanse the air, and you use whatever prayer that you use in order for it to activate and cleanse. It's taking, especially sage, because sage is very powerful. Sage removes everything, negative and positive energy, right? Palo Santo removes just the negative energy. But regardless of the fact, it's removing the negative, right? Just like sage and Palo Santo removes the negative, when you forgive and you allow yourself to accept what you're going through and let it go, you're clearing that negative that's been holding you down, that's been fighting with you for all this time, right? And you're allowing yourself to have that space so you can heal. So when you're healing, you're learning. When you're healing, you're learning stuff about yourself. You're learning new things, because you're becoming somebody else. When you let go of the old stuff and you let go of the hurt, you're becoming someone else, because now you're living in a space that you was not living in before, because you was not healed. So it's a new place. And now you're learning. And once you learn, you have a space for all that to come into, because you cleansed it out by letting go and forgiving. You're unable to learn the stuff and retain it. You can learn anything, but to retain it, it needs to be a clear space for it to go. And hurt and pain is really strong. And so if you try to keep healing in that, it can be destroyed, because healing is fragile. Healing is fragile. It takes repetition for it to be sound, to solidify. So you cannot have healing in the same place that you have pain and everything. It's not going to stay. So you have to let it go. You have to release it in order for that healing to stay and be retained. That knowledge, that lesson, that learning, that growth that you're receiving during healing, it has to be able to be retained. And the only way it can be retained is that space is clear. So forgiving people and letting go is how you cleanse that space, like you would do a sage or a Palo Santo stick, right? So it's very important. It's very important when you're healing from PTSD that you accept it, you forgive. That way you can allow yourself to receive whatever tools you need that works for you. Everybody is different, so it's going to work differently for you on how you heal. Just make sure it's positive, right? And you're allowing yourself to pick up that knowledge that you need so that you can acquire those tools and continue to use it until you're completely healed. It's not an overnight process, because a lot of people go through trauma that has been there for years. And just as you have to dig, you're digging a little bit at a time. You're digging through what you're going through, you know? It takes time. But if you're willing to get to the bottom of it and be healthy and happy, you'll be able to do it. Definitely. I mean, I was able to. And I'm not saying it's done. I'm saying it's a process. It's a process. But I can't say that I'm a lot better than where I started. I can't say I'm a lot better where I began and what I was dealing with before. So definitely understanding that letting go and accepting and giving forgiveness, it will allow you to receive healing so that you can get out of that moment of PTSD, that moment of trauma. So, how you feel? How you feel? Are you dealing with PTSD? Are you receiving any treatment? Are you receiving any help? Any therapy? Anybody aiding you to get to the point to where you are at the process of healing? If not, I have a hypnotherapist that I worked with. She's amazing. She works with, for my vets. She's worked with vets, so she definitely can help you. I had gone to therapy that the VA sets up. If you have percentage, you are with the VA. And I had went to therapy that the VA has set up, and it was cool. It's just that I felt like I was talking to my homegirl, and so I didn't want that. So I just let that go, and I ended up paying, because I wanted to feel like what I was going there for was being resolved, and I didn't feel that. I felt like my therapist was doing too much with relating with me instead of helping me find what I was dealing with and get to the bottom of it. But my therapist, she's a hypnotherapist, Anna Hanael, and she's amazing. She's worked with vets. And she does hypnotherapy where she helps you get to either inner you, where you find out about your little self. You visit your self guides, and she helps you get to the bottom of what's causing the issues, and you find out the areas that keeps triggering you to go through what you go through. So if you want that, I can put it, you know what, I'm just gonna put her information in the description. And you can decide from there by clicking on her link and going to her page and determining, you know, if you want to use her or not. She's amazing. She's helped me, you know. And eventually I will go back to her, you know. But yeah, PTSD is real. And anybody that I can help, I want to help. I've lost a lot of really good people. And it was unnecessary. And even people I don't know that I feel like that could have been helped. It's for real, y'all. Oh, and in case you don't know, when you walk around and you see the green light bulb in people's house or on their porch, that is signifying that they are PTSD. And be aware. Just be aware. They might need help. They might need assistance. And then if you see that, you might understand, oh, that's why they're acting like that, you know, instead of judging them and discriminating them and treating them like monsters, Frankenstein. It's not the case. Just that light bulb lets you know, hey, be kind, you know, could be going through something. So if you like this episode, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, and turn the notifications on. But I really want you to share this with somebody who needs it, and just really help. A lot of times we just need some kindness in this world. It's really ugly and dark, and sometimes people just need a hug. Me being without my parents and not being able to get a hug like I want to. I mean, my kids, they love, give me a hug. You know, I get it from my kids. But at the same time, like, not having that hug from my parents, it does something, you know. You really are missing that. And there's a lot of people out here that do not get that hug from like you would get from their parents, and not necessarily because they don't have them. It's just they never received that. Sometimes people just need a hug, and it's okay. It's okay to give a hug. It's okay. Well, I've enjoyed myself with you, my Amistad's, and I have had a ball connecting and sharing my views on PTSD with you. Again, my name is LaRenna Jack, and this is LaRenna with Love, and I want you to come back and vibe with me, okay? I enjoyed this frequency, and I will talk to you again. Stay blessed and stay up. Peace. Love y'all.